Hey, yo, what's going on, guys? We are live. Saturday. Happy Saturday, you guys. We got 7 games to talk about. Let me tweet out that I'm live really quick, and then we can get into it. All right. Boom. All right, let's go over some news. We can go over, we can take a look at the over-unders and the spreads, and then we can get to players' prices, and then questions at the end. We got a good amount of time here. There's a lot up in the air in the slate, right? A lot of the Suns guys are questionable, like almost half their team. We got Town still up in the air. So there's still a decent amount we're waiting on, but Rudy Gay is questionable as well. So start here. Rudy Gay is questionable. That is somewhat significant because he was playing about 20 to 25 minutes. So again, we got to keep an eye on that. Trae Young, this was the early slate, so we don't have to worry about that. Blake Griffin out once again. It's the biggest minutes boost goes to a guy like Markieff Morris, but he is priced up now. I believe he's at 5.5K. Luke Kennard is probable. D Rose actually just got ruled out. So, I think Kennard and Bruce Brown are the guys that I have, the most interest in as far as those Pistons guards. Let's see. Yeah, so DeAndre Ayton's still out. Ricky Rubio doubtful. So that came out of nowhere with the illness. He was someone I was pretty high on going into tonight, but obviously can't go there if he's not going to play. And then we have Sarge and Kaminsky questionable as well. So, like I said, there is a lot of the Phoenix guys up in there. It looks like Rubio's not going to be able to go, so that's a big boost to a guy like Devin Booker. Whoever starts in Rubio's place at the point would be a value guy that I would have some interest in, whether it be a Kobo, Carter, even Tyler Johnson possibly. And then if both Kaminsky and Sarge are out, that's a lot of minutes to go around, especially the Sarge minutes, in that front court. So, guys like Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, we'll talk about some guys, but there's a lot, like I said, a lot up in the air here for the Suns. Carmelo got ruled out. That is pretty significant, I think. He was playing about 35 minutes a game. Those minutes have to go somewhere. We saw in that game last night, actually, Scala BCA picked up a lot of those minutes. He played a little bit alongside Whiteside, so he's at the flat minimum price. And again, Hazonia list is questionable. So I think Scala BCA is an interesting value play today that not a lot of people maybe are talking about. Again, Town's still up in the air, questionable. The downside with those Minnesota guys is they ran a 12-man rotation last night. That's obviously not ideal for DFS purposes. Some of the stuff is Sunday. Let's see. A lot of the stuff is Sunday. That was the early slate. Like I said, so D Rose ruled out. So I think Kennard and Bruce Brown are the guys that have the most interesting as far as those Pistons guards. But let's take a look at some of these over-unders and spreads right now for these games. So Bulls and Pistons sitting at 211.5. The Bulls are now favored by 1.5 points. The Wizards 76ers at 227. The 76ers are favored by 12. So there's some blowout risk there. Bucks next 226.5. The Bucks are by 13.5. Again, obviously some blowout risk there. Kings Grizzlies at 220.5. The Kings favored by 1. Clippers Spurs at 225. The Clippers favored by 7. Rockets Suns at 234.5. The Rockets favored by 9. Again, there's a lot up in the air with those Suns guys. And then Timberwolves Trailblazers late night hammer here 228.5 with Portland favored by 6. So let's go team by team here. We'll start with the first game here, Washington and Philly. So this is a tricky game, right? Because there's a lot to like in the Philly side, and then if you're going to play a bunch of those Philly guys, you probably run it back with a guy like Beal. So I think you go one of two ways on the slate. I think you play a couple of those Philadelphia guys and run it back with Beal, or just fade it all together, or maybe just play like one of the Philly guys and hopefully gets there in a blowout. That's the way I would go about it. On the Washington side, besides Beal, honestly, not a whole lot I'm super excited about. I mean, I like the price on Beal a good amount. Again, if they're going to keep this game close, he's most likely going to have to have a big game. That's why I say if you're going to play, two of those Philly guys, you probably run it back with Beal. Or if the game blows out, maybe you just fade it all together. Bertan's price is up. Again, my issue with him is he's very scoring dependent. The upside is there still, even at an elevated price, but he's risky because he is, again, very scoring dependent. IT okay, Troy Brown okay, but these are guys I feel great about. Like Mahimi at 4.4. maybe gets like 25 minutes. I got AP as well here at 3 point. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name at 3.7K. They're very, very thin up front. It's a terrible spot here against Philly. So, you could take a shot on one of these bigs, I guess, with Schofield, Mahimi, and AP, but I don't know if I'm personally going to do it. I think, like I said, if I was going to play one of these Washington guys, it would be Beal at that price. I think he should be somewhat popular. Again, it's all about whether you think this game stays close or not. And then the Philadelphia side, there's a lot to like. Honestly, the whole starting five here, Richardson, Horford, Tobias, Ben Simmons, and Embiid, are all a pretty solid plays in my opinion. Again, if you think this game stays close, then you maybe play two of these guys and run it back with Beal. Or you go the opposite side and just fade it all together. Me personally, right now, I am fading it, but that's a risky move for sure. Because like I said, all five of these guys are in great spots. Embiid has huge upside. No one can stay with him. 10.2K I still think is a little bit underpriced. Ben Simmons, he's a triple-double upside. He's been a little bit down, but it's a great spot. And then if you want to save a little bit of money, go Tobias, Horford, Josh Richardson. I don't mind that either. So really, this whole starting five is very much in play. It's all about whether or not you think this game stays close. Again, it's sitting at a 12-point spread. It's at Philadelphia too. So there is a good amount of blowout risk. Like I said, you can really go about it three ways. You play two of these Philadelphia guys, run it back with Beal. You fade the game altogether, or you play like one of the Philadelphia guys, and then hopefully he gets there in a blowout. That's the way I would go about it. So that's kind of it for that Washington-Philly game. Let's move on to Chicago and Detroit. So the Chicago side is no one. I think all are pretty solid plays, but no one stands out as like a fantastic play, at least on this slate. Like I do like Levine at that price. We know he's going to shoot the ball a ton. He had an off shooting night, still put up 42 fantasy points. So the upside is there with him. He is probable, so I think like I said, he's going to be good to go. Markkanen, Wendell Carter Jr., again, no issue with either of those guys. I think Markkanen has flashed more upside of recently, right? He's been a little bit more up and down, but the upside has been there. Carter Jr., probably going to have to play big minutes against Drummond. Satoransky, I don't mind either. He's been getting 33, 34 minutes. He's been pretty solid of late. Even Chris Dunn has been getting extended a bit. So, like I said, these guys, the whole starting five here for Chicago is I don't have an issue if you land on them. I just don't think like one really stands out as an amazing play. And then as far as cheap guys go, I would say Kobe White is actually an interesting GPP dart throw here because his price is so cheap. And we've seen it like, before where he's playing well, they'll extend him to like 30 minutes. So that's just, I can't recommend that with confidence, but that's like a GPP dart throw. And then, Thad Young is okay too here, 4K, going to get about 20 minutes. I don't mind him if you want to go there, but like I said, none of these guys really stand out as amazing plays. I all think all are just are decent options. On the Detroit side, so there is a decent amount to like here. No Blake Griffin, no Derrick Rose. So obviously Andre Drummond at the top stands out as a really good spend up here. You're going to have to make some tough decisions tonight because there's a lot of stars in good spots. We got Drummond with no Blake against Chicago. We do want to target bigs against Chicago, so you got to have some interest in Drummond here. Then you got Embiid on the other side against Washington, and then you got Harden and Westbrook in an up-tempo game. You got Booker with no Rubio. So there's a lot of like I said, you're gonna have to make tough decisions on spend ups. I like Drummond a good amount. I think the upside is pretty big. I know the price tag is up, but I do like the spot a lot for him. He's just kind of their go-to guy now with no Blake Griffin, no Derrick Rose as well. There's just a lot of usage to go around. Markieff Morris is a guy that's probably going to have to play decent minutes as well. I think he gets, maybe close to 30. I don't mind him if you want to go there. I don't think he's the best play, but, he does have upside. And then Kennard and Bruce Brown Jr. are intriguing as well. No Derrick Rose. They're just very, very thin. You could look to Galloway too, but hasn't flashed as much upside. So I think I would, prefer paying a little bit more for a guy like Kennard or Bruce Brown. With no Derrick Rose, these guys are going to have to step it up. So yeah, both those guys I think are very, very much in play as value guys, kind of in the mid-tier. Again, Galloway, if you really want to, you can, but I think I'll just prefer paying a little bit more for Brown and Kennard. And that's what I got. So on the Detroit side, there's a decent amount to like, right? It's Drummond at the top. You're going to have to make some tough decisions with the stars, but he is up there in that group, that elite group of stars, which I'm very much considering. Markieff Morris is okay. I think, the guards I have the most interest in here are Kennard and Bruce Brown. So that's what I got for Detroit. As far as Milwaukee, New York, so this game, if you're playing cash games, I don't think you can do it. Um, at least target a lot of people. Like Giannis at 11.7, there's no issue with him. It's just the Knicks. I have a hard time believing they can keep this game close. So that obviously limits his upside. You can 100% go there in GPPs, but I just don't know if I could do it for cash games personally. Middleton, kind of the same thing, right? The blowout risk is there. DiVincenzo's been good, but his price is coming up. I don't mind George Hill. I think Brook Lopez actually stands out as an okay option. Even in a blowout, I think he gets about 25 minutes or so. So he's an okay option at this price. He's been a bit up and down, but doesn't have to do a whole lot to get you there. You could take shots on these really cheap guys like Ursan or, Connaughton if you think the game blows out. But those are more of just dart throw options. So that's what I got for Milwaukee. I don't think I would go there in cash games, but for GPPs, honestly, like I said, you could go Giannis. He's going to go a bit lower owned just because I think everyone's kind of thinking the same thing of, the blowout. As far as the Knicks go, again, I don't really think I can go there for cash, with Randall, Robinson, Morris, RJ Barrett. They're okay. Like, I think if I was going to take a shot on one of these expensive guys, it would be Randall, but I just don't have a whole lot of faith this game stays close. Again, I like the price tag. I don't know if it stays close. One guy that is intriguing here is Alfred Payton at 4.7. He started in the second half and played decent. So if he picks up the start, I would have some interest there. Again, they do have two other point guards they can use, but he would be someone that I would at least consider. And that's kind of what I got. Let's see if we got any more news here as far as starting lineups and stuff. Okay, Jonas Valanciunas just got ruled out, so that is that's pretty big news. So we'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, that's what I got here for Milwaukee and New York. Again, this game in general, I don't think I would go there for cash games if you're playing cash games. For GPPs, again, you could go Giannis, maybe one of those cheaper bucks. On the Knicks side, I think I would consider Randall and maybe Alfred Payton. But nothing I can feel confident in, at least for cash games. As far as the next game here with Sacramento and Memphis, there are some interesting plays. So Bogdan, I believe, got ruled out, or he's questionable. I thought he got ruled out. Maybe not. But the guys that intrigue me here are Marvin Bagley and De'Aaron Fox. So the last game blew out. They got limited a bit minutes-wise. Before, he only played 24 minutes. Before that, 30 and 30. And they said he's going to still be on a minutes limit, looks like, the next couple of games. So we'll see. If they take him off the minutes, if we get that news, then I would love De'Aaron Fox as an up-tempo game. So, this is something, hopefully we get clarity on it before lock. If not, I would expect, a minutes limit of 30. But either way, even in 30 minutes, I still think De'Aaron Fox would get you there. So he's someone in the mid-range I'm very much considering. And same thing with Marvin Bagley. Those minutes are starting to creep up. He played 27 that last game. So if he starts getting to 30 minutes and he's still at this 5.4K price tag, I like him a good amount. So, those are the two guys I have the most interest in. Again, both are somewhat on minutes limits, but it looks like, the minutes are going up for both of them. As far as the other options, Buddy Hield's okay. Don't know if I would, go out of my way to play him. The cheap guys, not really for me. So that's basically what I got for Sacramento. It's kind of Fox and Bagley, and that's it. As far as the Memphis side, so now there is a decent amount to talk about with no Jonas Valanciunas. That is pretty big. So he was the guy that was playing 25 to 30 minutes. He was a guy that, demanded a lot of usage in that offense. So, you could look to a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr. He's very, very up and down, but the upside is there. Or you could look to a guy like Brandon Clark at 5.8K, who I think possibly picks up a start here. He's been very productive as well, and if he starts, I think he probably gets about 25, maybe even 30 minutes, right? Kind of that Jonas Valanciunas role. So I would have some interest there in Brandon Clark. Again, I don't think his minutes will go up huge. Like I said, he was already playing about 25 minutes before that last game against Cleveland, where he got limited a little bit. Brandon Clark will remain off the bench. So it's going to be interesting to see who they start. I haven't seen that yet. Okay, so that's something we do have to keep an eye on. I mean, they could start they could start one of these wings and go more of a small ball lineup like Kyle Anderson or Hill, or I don't know. We'll see what they end up doing. Caboclo could be in the mix. So Yeah, that's something we have to keep an eye on. But obviously, the two bigs here with Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark, I think get a big usage bump. I don't necessarily think they play a lot more minutes, but like I said, Jonas Valanciunas was a guy that demanded the ball a lot. So there's a lot of usage around. So Clark and Jaren Jackson Jr. get a big usage bump. Even John Morant here at 7.7 with no JV, I think his usage goes up. I think he gets probably over 30 minutes in a close game. This is should be played at a little bit faster pace. Sacramento has been playing slow, but with De'Aaron Fox now back, they're playing at a faster rate. So I do have some interest there in John Morant. And then the cheap options, again, we'll see who they end up starting. That is something we will have to keep an eye on. They could start, one of these wings, like I said, move Crowder down to the 4 maybe. I don't know. We'll see what they end up doing. But that's what I got here from Memphis as of right now. We'll move on here to the Clippers and the Spurs. So on the Clippers side, I think the main interest for me at least is Kawhi Leonard in the revenge game. He's priced down a little bit in my opinion at 8.5K. The Spurs play at a fast rate. The Spurs have been pretty bad defensively this year as well. So Kawhi Leonard does stand out as a pretty good play. Again, it is a revenge game narrative as well. Also don't mind Montrez at that price. I think he's a little underpriced. I think he gets about 30 or so minutes. So he's someone I would consider as well. Also Pat Beverly. He's a guy that fills up the stat sheet, right? I think he gets over 30 minutes in a close game. So he's someone that I do have some interest in as well. But that's really it. Paul George, if you want to get risky and pivot off of Kawhi Leonard, right? Kawhi is going to be probably like 10 times more owned than Paul George. So if you're a guy that's taking ownership in consideration, you could pivot to Paul George, who's going to be way less owned. Lou Williams, an okay option as well, but the price is coming up on him to 6.7K. Still don't mind him. I think the upside is there, but I think my preferred option, again, would be Kawhi and then probably Montrez, Pat Beverly. As far as the Spurs, the Spurs are kind of a headache team to figure out. So we'll just start with the top 3 guys. Aldridge, DeRozan, and DeJounte Murray, right? It's not really a great spot. The Clippers do play at a faster rate, though. What's this over-under at? It's 225, 7-point spread. Aldridge is a guy that has been playing really consistent minutes. He's been playing really consistent basketball of late, too. So I think he stands out as a pretty safe option at this price. DeRozan has been a little bit more down here because I think DeJounte Murray does affect his usage a bit with DeJounte Murray's minutes going up. So I don't hate DeRozan. DeJounte Murray at 6K I think stands out as a pretty decent option. Again, not really the best spot, but he's just a guy that has upside and probably gets close to 30 minutes. He played 27 that last game. So I do have some interest there as well. And then we get to the cheap guys where I think you could take shots in these guys. Like Rudy Gay is questionable. That's something we have to monitor. If he misses, maybe Lonnie Walker gets more minutes. The issue with these Spurs guys is that they just have a lot of guys that can use. So I don't think one person would be a big beneficiary if Rudy Gay misses. Patty Mills and Derek White have flash upside too as well, right? Patty Mills has had over 30 fantasy points in 2 of the last 4 games. He's a bit up and down. So I don't think I could go there for cash games, but he's definitely viable for GPPs. And same thing with Derek White, right? 27, 28, 31, but then mixed in there with a 9. So he's very up and down as well. So him and Patty Mills, I don't think I go there for cash games, but for GPPs, I think are definitely viable. And then again, maybe Lonnie Walker if Rudy Gay misses, but that's what I got for the Spurs. Again, kind of a tricky team to figure out just because they have a lot of guys that can use. No one plays huge minutes besides Aldridge, and DeRozan. But let's move on to Houston and Phoenix. Another kind of headache game, so we're waiting on a lot on the Phoenix side, right? But on the Houston side, there's a good amount to like here, in my opinion. This is the highest over-under of the day, right? 234.5, 9-point spread. So there is some blowout risk. Again, Phoenix is Rubio doubtful, and then Kaminsky and Sarge questionable. So that is pretty big news. As far as Harden, Westbrook go, I think Westbrook is going to be a lot higher owned because he's 2K less, and has actually been playing better as far as DFS purposes compared to Harden. So I think, like I said, Harden goes a lot lower owned. I think, maybe you take a shot on Harden because he's going to go lower owned. We know the upside is huge. This is an up-tempo game. Really, either way, you can't go wrong with either of these guys. I think Westbrook probably the safer option, I guess, because he's cheaper. But I do like both a good amount. Again, there is some blowout risk. As far as Capella goes, I think he stands out as a decent option at this price. We know he's going to get close to 40 minutes in a close game. The upside has been there, so I don't mind him. Um, and then as far as the cheap guys, I do have some interest here as well. Like PJ Tucker, there's not a whole lot of great value plays as of right now. So he's a guy that will probably get close to 40 in a close game. At this price, I don't mind going there. Even a guy, Danwell House at 3.8K, he's gotten like about 35 minutes in 3 of the last 4 games. Not really a high usage guy, but if you can knock down some threes, I get it. So I do have some interest there as well. But that's what I got for Houston. Again, there's kind of a lot I like here. Harden, Westbrook at the top. Don't mind Capella and the cheap guys like PJ Tucker, Danwell House. You could like to Ben McLemore as well. Those guys are all definitely in play. Well, let's move on to Phoenix. So this is the big question mark of the slate, and this is tricky because this is one of the later games, so I don't think we get this news before lock, which, like I said, so Bogdanovich just got ruled out for the Kings. Wesley Matthews got ruled out for the Bucks. Honestly, that doesn't do a whole lot for me. He wasn't playing huge minutes. But, okay, let's talk about Phoenix. So, Ayton out, Rubio doubtful. There's a lot of usage to go around. Devin Booker stands out as the best play here, in my opinion, at this price. I think his usage goes way up. His assists can go way up with no Rubio. So, I love his upside here. I think if Phoenix keeps this game close, he's probably going to have a big game. So, if you're playing like Harden and Westbrook, you maybe probably run it back with one of these Phoenix guys. Probably my preferred target would be Devin Booker there at that price, but I also like Oubre too at 6.5K. He would be like the number 2 guy. He has flash upside too. Again, this is an up-tempo game, and they're missing 2 of their high usage guys with Rubio and Ayton. So really Booker and Oubre stand out as really good plays in my opinion. Again, there is some blowout risk. This is kind of, almost in the territory of the Washington game where you either, maybe load up in it or just completely fade it again. So if you're more confident with, Washington or with, Washington, keep it close, maybe you target that game instead. If you're more confident in this game staying close, maybe you load up in this game. But, Booker, like I said, Booker and Oubre really stand out as good plays in my opinion. And then we have the headache of Kaminsky and Sarge, both listed as questionable. Kaminsky got really shorted minutes-wise. That last game only got 11, but Sarge is a guy that has been playing consistent minutes, like about 30, honestly, averaging a game. So those minutes have to go somewhere. I think a guy like Mikal Bridges would get some, Cameron Johnson. I think Aaron Baines would have to play some decent minutes. I think a guy like Cheek Diallo, if both those guys get ruled out, would play some backup big, and he would stand out as a really good value play at min price. One of those cheap guards, whether it be, Kobo, Tyler Johnson, Javon Carter, whoever they end up starting for Rubio, or if they move, Booker to the point and then start one of the wings. Either way, there is, like I said, there's a lot up in the air, but my main interest is the 2 guys at the top here with Booker and Oubre, and then as far as the value guys go, we kind of have to wait on it, right? If both Kaminsky and Sarge play, I would have some interest in Sarge at that price. I think he's a bit underpriced, and I would still like Oubre, I would still like Booker, and I would probably still like Baines too at that price, but yeah, if both those guys get ruled out, then, Bridges, Cameron Johnson, those are guys to be probably direct beneficiaries. So that is something we'll have to monitor. And that's why it's important to follow me on Twitter, guys. That will be in the description below. I will give my thoughts as we get this news, going throughout the night. So hopefully we get this news somewhat soon, but I don't think we're going to get it before lock tonight, 7 o'clock. But let's move on to the last game of the night. And this game is also intriguing here. We're still waiting on the Cat news. He is questionable with that knee. He had participated limited shoot around yesterday, so that does give me a little bit of confidence that he could play. He's a really interesting tournament play because if he ends up playing, he's going to be like 1% owned, right? Just because I think he'll get ruled in like maybe like 9 o'clock where you really wouldn't have any other options. So if your guys making multiple lineups, like a lot, I think you throw Cat maybe 1 or 2 and then just hope he plays because he would be probably, like I said, 1% owned. So just take that in consideration. Maybe take a shot there if you're making multiple lineups. If he misses, Wiggins gets a big usage bump. He's been playing consistent minutes still, but everyone else really got shafted minutes-wise. Like Teague only got 26 that last game. Covington only got 23. They had a 12-man rotation last night. Gorgie Jang only played 24. Like a lot of these bench guys got about 20 minutes. Shabazz ended up starting. If he starts again, I would have some interest there at 3.6K. He didn't have the best game, but in 20 minutes, he's a guy that can get you like 25 or so fantasy points. So I would have some interest in him for sure if he ends up starting again. Even guys like Jordan Bell and Noah Vonleh. Bell got, 16 minutes that last game. Noah Vonleh got 20. So those are guys you could throw dart throws on for GPPs if Karl-Anthony Towns is out. Obviously, if Cat plays, I wouldn't go there. But that's basically what I got from Minnesota. Again, it's all really dependent on if Cat plays. If Cat ends up playing, I think really my only interest would be Cat himself. If he ends up missing, he could take shots in like Wiggins, who would probably still play the consistent minutes. Teagan Covington wouldn't feel as good because the minutes were down. Maybe take shots at some of those cheaper guys, right, like Napier, Bell, or Vonleh. But yeah, another situation where we kind of have to wait, and it sucks that it's the late game of the night. As far as Portland goes, so Portland is a team I do have some interest in as well, especially the big three here. So no Carmelo. There's a good amount of usage going. Carmelo was a guy that was shooting the ball a decent amount, right? 16, 17 times a game. He was really consistent. So that usage has to go somewhere. And Lillard, Whiteside, and CJ are all underpriced in my opinion. So all three are very, very much in play. This is an up-tempo game. And I think maybe those guys go a bit lower owned because, at least from what I'm thinking, I think a lot of people will target that Washington-Philly game. The Detroit guys with Drummond, and then that Phoenix-Houston game. I think this game maybe goes a bit forgotten about. But Lillard, Whiteside, and CJ all stand out as really solid plays. No issue with any of those guys. Like I said, all three are very, very much in play. Bazemore probably gets a little bit of bump here. He's been playing over 30 minutes. I think he's a viable cheap option. Now, an interesting guy to target here is Skal Labissière at the flat minimum price. He played 24 minutes. He played, how many minutes did he play along Whiteside? So Whiteside played 33, right? So they played alongside each other a decent amount, which is interesting. They didn't do a whole lot of that this year, but if Skal Labissière is going to play some 4, I like him a lot at the flat minimum. So he stands out as probably one of the best value plays in my opinion if they're going to continue to run him at the 4. Again, he's the flat minimum. If he gets like 20 to 25 minutes, I think he stands out as a really good play at minimum price. So I do like him quite a bit. Other guys that could pick up some more minutes, maybe Simons, if they run like a small ball. Herzonia is questionable. If he misses, again, I really think Skal is probably locked into 2025. Tolliver is a guy that, maybe picks up the start. He's just a very, very low usage guy. I don't see him play huge minutes, so I wouldn't have a whole lot of interest there. But that's basically it. Little as well, I guess. He hasn't just been playing huge minutes. Maybe he gets a little bit of a bump too. So, yeah, there is some concern about Skal's minutes, right? I don't think he's like locked into 20 to 25 because they do have these other guys they can use, right? Little, Herzonia if he plays, Anthony Tolliver. But just going off last game with Skal playing well and he played 24 minutes, I do have some interest, and like I said, it's good to see him play alongside of Whiteside. But that's all I got here for as far as the team by team breakdown. Let me see if we got any more news regarding who's going to start for Jonas Valanciunas. Bulls are starting their same guys. Pistons are Brown, Kennard, Snell, Morris, Drummond. I kind of expected that. Let's see, Sixers, Simmons. Yeah, same starting lineup for them. So we're still waiting on the starting lineup for the Grizzlies, but let's get to some questions here. Cat missing doesn't help Wiggins. Well, I think it does for his usage. Cat just dominated the ball a lot, so I would have some interest in Wiggins. I don't still think I would go there, but he definitely gets a usage bump. Shabazz revenge game, that is true as well. Like I said, if Shabazz starts, I would have some interest there at 3.6K. Can we go back to the Justin Jackson well? Wait, Justin Jackson, he's not on the slate, right? Yeah, wait, who are you talking about? I like Ariza. He's cheap, 3.4. He got 19 minutes. I don't know. I don't feel great about that. I guess he would get more minutes with Bogdan being out. That's true. Yeah, I get it if you want to go Ariza. I think he probably gets 25 or so minutes, maybe a little bit more. He's a very low usage guy, but if he knocks down those threes, he can get you there. So yeah, I do get it if you want to go Ariza. That does make some sense with Bogdan ruled out. Lillard or WB? WB, is that, wait. Who's WB? Sorry if I'm losing it. Dylan Brooks is interesting. He is. He's a guy that, like I said, I don't know what they're going to do with their starting lineup, but he is a guy that has flash upside, 40, 26, 38, a bit up and down. So he's very much in play. Like I said, I do want to see what they do with their starting lineup as far as Memphis goes. Thoughts on Akobo? I think he would be someone I would consider if he starts. He still has been getting some decent run actually off the bench. He's gotten 24 and 15 minutes last couple games. He's been pretty solid too. If he ends up picking up the start, I would have some interest there at basically the flat minimum price. Oh, Justin James. I don't think I would do that. Did he get some run? He did get 24 minutes. Yeah. Justin James. You could take a shot. I don't think I would feel great about it. I think I would prefer Ariza and the same team for $400 more. But both are okay options, right? Sterling Brown with Wes Matthews out, potential blowout. Yeah, like I said, you can take some shots on these Milwaukee guys if you want. I think he would be definitely someone that would get more run in a blowout. He has not been good recently. How many minutes has Wes Matthews been playing? He's not been playing a whole lot. He did play well that last game. Yeah, he got 31 that last game. Other than that, he was a guy that's been about 20 or so. So, yeah, you can do it. You can take a shot on Sterling Brown. Westbrook, my guy. Okay, yeah, Westbrook is between Westbrook and Lillard. I like the upside a little bit more with Westbrook, but there's a little bit more blowout risk there. So I think I would go Westbrook over Lillard. My GPP line is Booker, Bazemore, Tobias, Bagley, Drummond, Bruce Brown, JR, PJ Tucker, George Hill. That is perfectly fine. No issues with that. James only got run because Ariza was out. That is true. Yes, Trevor Ariza was out. He was a late scratch, I believe, right? That is a really good point that James got run because Ariza was ruled out. He was not with the team, personal reason. So very, very good. Thank you for bringing that up. So I would definitely not go Justin James. I think Trevor Ariza would be the value guy I would take a shot on for Sacramento. Thank you for bringing that up. Booker or Beal? They're both very, very similar to me because both are pretty big underdogs. Both have huge upside, and both are probably going to have big games if their team's going to keep the game close. So that's like a coin flip to me, honestly. It's which game do you feel better about staying close? That's really who I would go with. As of right now, I am leaning towards the Phoenix-Houston game just because there's a lot up in the air. So I guess I would go Booker, but that's basically a coin flip, exactly coin flip. Middleton an okay play. I don't know if I would do it for cash games just because the blowout risk does worry me, but he's a perfectly fine, safe option. I'm leaning Booker. Who are we choosing? It starts in 10 minutes. Can someone tell me the lineup? Thank you. Shamet as a value, got 3,600 left for small forward. I wouldn't go Shamet. He got more run because Lou Williams got ejected. He got 31 minutes. I wouldn't feel great about that. So you got 3,600 for small forward. Probably Ariza, right? Yeah, I think I would go Ariza there, as gross as that sounds. I think he gets about 25 or so minutes, maybe a little bit more with no Bogdan. I mean, Cameron Johnson I would 100% prefer if, both those Phoenix guys are out. So that's why the slate's tricky, because a lot of this news is we're not going to get it in time. So just going off what we know so far, I would go Ariza. But if both those Phoenix guys get ruled out and you can afford an extra $100, I would definitely try to go up to like a Cameron Johnson. Peyton starting for the Knicks. Okay, so I do have some interest there in Peyton. with him starting. He is a guy that does have upside when he gets minutes. Rudy Gay is playing as well. That just came out. But I think he would probably be my favorite Nick. Now, there's a whole lot of risk, right? I still don't think I would do it for cash games, but I do like Payton's upside at that price for GPPs. Who should we choosing? I only got Westbrook right now. So, it's really about which game. I think Drummond stands out as a good spend up. I think, this Washington-Philly game is interesting if you think it stays close. I think, the Houston-Phoenix game is interesting. And then the Minnesota-Portland game. Those are the games I would be targeting. Let's see. Probably a 6 or 2 Pistons value. Booker. Yeah. Do you like Booker, Beal, Bazemore, Markieff, Jaren Jackson Jr., Elliot Kobo, Scalabicier, and Drummond? Yeah. I have no issues with that. Again, we got to wait for the starting line for Phoenix, but all those guys are perfectly fine. Definitely GPP only, though. Jaren Jackson Jr., right? The risk. He's always in foul trouble. Elf starting. Yeah, so I have some interest in Elf Payton there at that price for GPPs. Rudy Gay will play. Yeah, so, that kind of takes Lonnie Walker out of play. I think Rudy Gay himself is an interesting play because in that last game against the Clippers, he played 31 minutes in the last game. Now, I don't know if we get the same again because it's Popovich. His rotations are a bit wacky, but if he gets closer to 30 minutes at 4.2K, I think he stands out as a really good value play. I just don't know if we can trust Popovich. This one of those nights where you only play a few games in the early games, you can definitely do it. There's just two strategies. Like I said, you could really load up in those early games, with Washington, Philly, and then like Chicago, Detroit, or you could play it a bit risky and wait for the late games with Houston, Phoenix, and Minnesota, Portland, and just kind of wait for that news and hopefully it goes in your favor. Kawhi stands out in this game. De'Aaron Fox and Bagley in the mid-tier for Sacramento. Ariza as a value play, don't mind. On the Memphis side, the two bigs get a boost with no JV. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Thon Maker too thin. Wood and Blake out. I just don't like playing Thon Maker. He is, 3.2. He got extended run there because the game blew out. I think in a close game, he probably only gets 15 or so. Maybe 20. Yeah, he's at the flat minimum. I personally would prefer taking a shot in Scalabicier, but that's just me. Okay to play Oubre and Booker in tiers? I think so. I think both those guys have huge upside in an up-tempo game, so I think that's perfectly fine. JJJ already had 4 fouls in the first half. Yeah, that's, like I said, that's always the risk with Jaren Jackson Jr. The upside is there. Booker, Simmons, or Lillard. All three I have a lot of interest in. Me personally, I'm going to go with Booker right now. But I think Lillard's a perfectly fine option. Same with Simmons. All three very, very similar. I just think the upside, with Ayton out and with Rubio out is the highest right now with Booker. But I completely get it if you want to go with one of those other two as well. But we got 5 minutes till lock. Let's see. No more questions yet. So again, brief overview. If you're playing guys in this Philly Washington game, if you're playing a couple Philly guys, you probably run it back with Beal, or you fade it, or you play one of the Philly guys, and hopefully he gets you there in the blowout. As far as Chicago, Detroit, all 5 of the Chicago guys have no issue if you want to go there. I think all stand out as decent options. On the Detroit side, Drummond at the top stands out as a really good play, and then Bruce Brown and Kennard in the mid-range. Milwaukee, New York, this is complete fade for cash for me. For GPPs, you can take a shot on a guy like Giannis. You can take a shot on a guy like Alfred Payton. As far as Sacramento and Memphis, I think De'Aaron Fox and Marvin Bagley intrigue me. They're still on minutes limits, unless we hear otherwise. But this is an up-tempo game. On the Memphis side, we don't know what the starting lineup is yet, but with no JV, there is a lot of usage to go around. I think Clark, and Jaren Jackson Jr. don't necessarily get a huge minutes bump, but their usage should go up. We'll see who they end up starting. Again, that's kind of up in the air. As far as Clippers and the Spurs, Kawhi stands out as probably my favorite play in that game. A revenge game narrative as well, playing at the Spurs. On the Spurs side, there is, guys you can take shots on, right? Those cheap guys. Rudy Gay is interesting. White and Patty Mills a flash upside. And then on the expensive side, Murray, Aldridge, and DeRozan don't mind. But I don't think anyone really stands out as an amazing play there. On the Houston-Phoenix game, this game intrigues me. Again, there is some blowout risk, but Harden and Westbrook at the top. Those cheap guys, PJ Tucker, Daniel House are viable on the Phoenix side. Booker and Oubre especially. I think those guys are going to have big games that keeps it close. Also, again, we're waiting on the availability of Saric and Kaminsky, so there is kind of a lot up in the air in that game. And the value guys you can obviously take shots on. And then Minnesota-Portland, I think Cat is a really, really interesting tournament play if he ends up playing. He's going to be probably sub 1% owned. On the Portland side, it is Lillard, Whiteside, McCollum, the big three. I have a good amount of interest in, as well as Scala BCA at the flat minimum, just because he got some decent run at the 4 with playing alongside Whiteside. Holmes in play. I just don't think I would do it. He's an okay play, right? But I wouldn't go out of my way to play him. I got my GBP line, struggling to set my cash game lineup, laugh my ass off. Yeah, so this slate is definitely tricky for cash games. I'm not playing cash games just because, the games that are interesting are all have some blowout risks. Washington, Phoenix, Houston, or Washington, Philly, Houston, Phoenix. Even Minnesota, Portland if Cat doesn't go, and then Chicago, Detroit, not really a whole lot of blowout risk, but that's why this slate it's a little bit tricky for cash games for sure. How many minutes will Scal get? If we're going off last game, I think he gets 20 to 25 with Melo out. Again, he played a lot at the 4. We'll see. They do have other guys they can use, which does worry me a little bit. They have Razonia if he plays. They have Anthony Tolliver. They have Little they can use. But if we're just going off last game, I think Scal could get 20 to 25, and that's why I think he stands out as a decent option. Again, I don't think those minutes are necessarily locked in. Closer to 20, I would assume, Kennard or Holmes. I would go Kennard there. I just think his upside is higher with no D Rose, with no Blake Griffin. I guess tonight it'll be Westbrook, McCollum, Kennard, Scal, Drummond, Tyler Johnson, Ariza, and Kawhi. Yeah, I think that's a really solid lineup. Maybe go with whoever starts at point guard for the Suns, whether it be Tyler Johnson or Kobo. But I think that stands out as a pretty solid option. You're kind of spreading, plays out throughout the game. So, yeah, I think that is a pretty solid option or a pretty solid lineup. And I just realized my lineup did not save. So that's not good. Ooh. All right. 1 minute to lock. Other than that, I can go over some ownership in the tournaments, and then I will get out of here. I can swap Westbrook for Lillard and switch the foul. Yeah, that's a good option. Perfectly fine. Good call on that. It's always good to have a backup plan. So, good thinking there. Just going with Booker, Bazemore, Tobias, Bagley, Drummond, Brown, PJ Tucker, George Hill for both cash and GBP. Couldn't make a cash line. Your lineup good. Yeah, I got mine in time I switched it up. But yeah, Booker, I have no issue with that. You kind of spread it out, right? You got Tobias in the Philly game. You got Booker, Tucker in that Houston-Phoenix game. You got Bazemore, Drummond. So that stands out as a pretty solid cash game lineup as well. Jaren Jackson or Montrez. I think it's Montrez for cash games, and it's Jaren Jackson Jr. for GPPs. 3.8K at forward, already have Scal. So that's dependent on news, right? If If both those Phoenix guys are out, then I would go with Cameron Johnson. If not, I think you go with Daniel House there at 3.8K. You could always go to Trevor Ariza too. I think those three would be the options I would consider at 3.8K if you have Scal already. Yeah, I think that's what I would probably do in that situation. One of those three guys, Scal or Tolliver. So I'm just gonna go Scal there. I like his upside a bit more. Even if he doesn't get as much run, like if he gets limited to like 15 or so minutes, I still think at the min price, he's a guy that can get us like 15 to 20 fantasy points, right? I don't think he's gonna kill us. His low is what, 8 fantasy points, whatever. But he's a guy that does have some upside. So that's what I would go with. Good luck at House, yeah. Hope your lineup's in good. Good luck tonight. Hey, $5 super chat. Really appreciate that, Eric Stevens. Good luck to you too. Hopefully win some money and have a good night. But I really do appreciate that super chat. Thank you. Let's see. So Sunday slate, it looks like we have 5 games, but 4 are later. So I think that Mavericks-Raptors game will be on its own. So I'll have a video up for the NBA slate. Maybe not tonight, maybe tomorrow morning. Don't know if I can swing it tonight. We'll see. Mikal Bridges or Bazemore. Again, I'm going to say that is up in the air, dependent on if both Saric and Kaminsky are out. I would go, Bazemore's still going to get run. That's tricky. That's really close. I think right now you put Bazemore in, and then if the news changes, if Kaminsky and Saric are both out, maybe you think about pivoting to Bridges. So, yeah, that's a really close call. Right now, I would definitely go with Bazemore. I've got Johnson in now, so I can pivot once news comes. That's a good call as well. Levine only 3% in my tourney. Oh, yeah, let's go over some ownership. I like that. Levine being only 3% owned. He's a guy we know he has the upside. Let's see. Bruce Brown, 30%. Kennard, 50%. So it looks like those short guards definitely getting some ownership. And Drummond at 50%. Markieff Morris at 13%. So a lot of the guys loading up on those Pistons. Again, those are the 3 guys I had the most interest in with Kennard, Bruce Brown, and Andre Drummond. With Drummond being 50% owned, I wonder what Embiid's ownership is, because that was an early game too, right? At least for GPPs, that's a really interesting pivot. Thank you, Jake Anderson. As always, thanks for the streams, vids, guys. My guy, $5 super chat. Really do appreciate that, guys. Again, you don't have to, but that is very, very much appreciated. I do, wish you guys good luck and hopefully win some money tonight. But thank you very much. Embiid 9%, right? So Drummond is 5 times owned than Embiid, and I think they're both very, very similar with upside. So yeah, I think I would prefer going Embiid there if I knew the ownership. But yeah, that's just always something to think about. The ownership. Beal got 22%. Again, I think some people had the same thoughts with, if they're playing Philly guys, run it back with Beal. But it looks like those Detroit guys are the highest owned with, Kennard and Drummond being about 50%. Both stood out as pretty solid plays in my opinion. So we'll see how that goes. Embiid only 14%. Yeah. So that was an interesting pivot off of a guy like Drummond. But I think I'm going to get out of here, guys. I hope you guys all have a good Saturday. Again, I will have that video up for the NBA slate. Maybe not tonight, but maybe tomorrow morning, as well as I'll have the Showdown slate up for Sunday as well. I haven't been getting up the main slate NFL videos in the last couple of weeks just because I haven't had a whole lot of time. But I will definitely get the Showdown slate up for the NFL for Sunday and then Monday as well. Appreciate you streaming on Saturday, DK. Thanks and good luck. Of course, man. I love doing this, so it's really no issue at all. Harrison Barnes. Yeah, Harrison Barnes is okay. It's always one of those where, I just never go out of my way to play him. I think he's fine for cash games, but I wouldn't go out of my way to play him. But yeah, I'm gonna get out here, guys. So thanks again. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys all tomorrow.